Welcome to Tricked Out. I'm Andrew Autoloc. On this show, we take some of the most popular modifications in the sport compact world and show you what it takes to do it yourself. Here's what you're going to need for today's project. Pick up a shave door handle kit and you'll get the actuator solenoids and the control unit, plus remotes, relays, and all the hardware to complete the project. For the Civic, we need to add a perforated strap and break into our stash of wire ties, connectors, and surplus wire. You'll also need a drill, some silicone spray, and your standard shop tools to get it all done. Remember, you can get a complete list of materials and instructions by visiting us at our website at DIYnetwork.com. Now, a lot of people talk to me about how that the new tricked out sport compact cars kind of remind them of the old heavy metal hot rods of the past. So it only makes sense that some of the cool mods of the old school found their way into the new school. Now, one of my favorite hot rod inspired mods is shave body parts. What this means is taking a stock piece off the car and then using traditional body techniques to smooth over the hole that's been left behind. Now, for example, on the Civic with the license plate in the back, that's purely a cosmetic mod. But if you're going to be removing a door handle and filling that in, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute, how do I get back into the car? Not to worry. What we have here is called an actuator. And when power is applied to the solenoid inside, it acts just like the old latch in your car. Check it out. Got some power here. Open, close. The cool thing about this, though, is that it's electronic, so you get to use a remote. Now, the first step in putting our new system into the car is removing the door panel and getting rid of all that hardware in the car. Now, removing a door panel is pretty basic across the board on all cars. There's a bunch of screws. They're going to be located in different spots on different cars. But once you see me on the Civic, you're going to know what you're up against. Roll the window down to allow some extra clearance at the top, and then pop off the speaker cover. Remove the screws that hold the speaker in place and then pull it out and disconnect the wiring. After the speaker's removed, there are a few more screws in the speaker area and one to remove in the door pull. Next, carefully unplug the window switch harness from the cup assembly and pull out the door latch handle to reveal the hidden screw that secures the bezel. Slide out the trim piece and disconnect the door lock wiring harness, and then you'll be ready to release the panel. Then, lift up and out to release the panel from the door. Once you get the door panel removed, you can peel off the plastic liner to expose the window and handle mechanisms inside. Once you get your plastic peeled back, you need to plug back in your window unit here and roll it up so you can get access to the door handle. Excellent. Then, get yourself a ratchet with a long extension and get to work. Remove the two 10mm bolts that secure the handle to the door. Once they're removed, pull the handle out from outside the car and carefully turn the handle assembly to unscrew it from the connecting rod. Then, feed a wide slotted screwdriver in through the handle opening and twist open the connecting rod channel as you work the rod out. Now, it's not a big area, but in order to do it right, you're going to need a welder and metal tools, plus bodywork and paint supplies. In my opinion, it's just not worth it. But there's no reason an honest do-it-yourselfer can't put in the hidden latch system and the electronics. That's where you're going to save your money. And now it's time to install our new components. This is all the hardware that's going to be going inside the door. We got our solenoid and mounting brackets. We have our cables that are going to run from the solenoid to the latches in between the two. We have cable clamps and screws. Now, our first step is to get this solenoid mounted to the bracket, and then we can take the whole unit over to the car. Now that we're back at the door, we need to find a good solid point to mount our solenoid. The most important thing is that we have a direct line for the cable to run from the solenoid to the latch. And we also want to make sure that we don't interfere with the window going up and down. So we figure the best spot is right here inside the door panel. Try to use an existing mounting hole if you can, and mark a second hole since you'll need two holes for a solid mount. Use a center punch as a starting spot and drill out the second hole with a 1/4-inch bit. Make sure to get through both layers if it's a double-layer construction like we found in the Civic doors. Tuck the bracket behind the panel for increased clearance and use the provided bolts to mount the solenoid to the door. Once you get the solenoid mounted, you want to carefully roll the window up and down and make sure you have enough clearance. Cool. If everything checks out, you can run your cable from the solenoid to the latch. Here's a quick tip. It's easier to start from the latch end. Loop the cable through the factory latch and then use a cable clamp to secure it. Then, run the cable through the solenoid, loop it back, and lock that down also. You're going to want to leave some slack in here, because doors slam around quite a bit, and you don't want your door to open unless you want it to open. You know what I'm saying? All right. The next thing we need to do is run the trigger wire from the dash to the solenoid. This is going to be a little different in every car, but basically, you'll need to find the existing conduit that runs wires to the door for the speakers, windows, and locks. You won't be able to see the entire path, so open up any access points along the way and fish the wire through. Cut and strip the wire to size, add an eyelet connector, and attach it to the solenoid terminal with a screwdriver. Then, secure the wire inside the door so it doesn't rattle around or interfere with the window mechanism. Once you get all the components installed in the driver's side door, you can give it a quick test here by pumping the actuator and checking out the handle, see if it's pulling, which it is. If it's not pulling enough for you, you might want to consider tightening up this cable that runs from the solenoid to the latch. It might take a little bit of futzing, but you'll work it out. And now it's time to get to the wiring. Now, all of these can be pre-wired at the bench. Start with the control unit and add female spade connector to the wires that are used for the installation. The brown wire is channel 1, and we'll use it to unlock the doors. The yellow with a stripe is channel 2, which will be our lock button. The blue and white wire triggers the driver's door solenoid, and the green and white wire triggers the passenger door. Each of those female spades can be attached to an 86 terminal on separate relays. After the signal wires are installed, you can loop power to the 30 and 85 terminals on each relay. Combine 2 red wires into a female spade, and then cut one side short, attach another connector, and plug them into the terminals. Do that for all 4 relays, and then add extension wires to run the accessories to the car. Once the relays are wired, you can wire tie them to a short length of perforated strap along with the control unit. Then, cut off the unused wires and wrap them each with electrical tape, and label each relay with a paint marker to prevent confusion in the car. Now, the 5th relay is our safety relay. It gets wired up a little bit differently than the other ones because it's meant to interrupt the ground of the control unit when the ignition is turned on. The number 86 control terminal gets spliced into the yellow switched ignition lead, and the 30 and 85 terminals run to ground. The black wire from the control unit runs to the 87A terminal in the middle of the relay, which means the circuit is completed when there's no power coming from the ignition lead. The safety relay is a piece of cake. Now follow me here. Ignition on, relay off. No ground to the control unit means there's no way your doors are going to accidentally open while you're screaming down the drag strip. Got it? Good. All right. Once you have your safety relay put into place, you want to combine all of your positive leads and put a spade connector on the end. Then, you want to pop an eyelet connector onto your ground, clean up all this mess of wires, and take the unit over to the car. Before doing any electrical work, unhook the negative terminal on the battery. The Civic's door module is located behind the driver's kick panel, and an aftermarket alarm company or factory service manual can tell you which wire is which. Attach the door lock and unlock leads from the relays to the door lock module in the car. Next, cut and splice the trigger wires for each door solenoid to their relays, and then you're ready to hook up the power. Our Civic has cool accessory terminals in the fuse block, so it's easy to just connect the constant and switch power leads to the terminals. But don't worry, if your car doesn't have them, just use fuse taps to attach the leads to the accessory and constant power fuses instead. Finally, connect the ground wire from the safety fuse to a solid ground point near the fuse panel, and use wire ties to secure the control unit and relay assembly. Use a few more ties to neaten up the wiring, and replace the underdash trim panels to finish up. For all of us here at Tricked Out, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time. Now go trick out your own car.